I want to pause here. I feel like I am maybe going on and on and on, and I don't have as much direction as I'd like to have right now. So join me here while we collect. Maybe this is important for you all to see how this process works, but take a deep breath. Come back into this present moment. Feel for what I want to say. Hey everybody, it's Carmen Karma here, and today I want to talk about what the purpose of understanding spirituality, understanding yourself is. And I think in order to do that, we have to understand what spirituality really is. What does spirituality really mean? What is this word spirituality? Well, most people would agree, well, first and foremost, I don't think it can really truly fully be defined. I think it's a name for a topic that is so far greater than who we are and what we are as humans and what we're able to understand. I think spirituality is the exploration of what it means to be human. Ooh, I like that. Spirituality is the exploration of what it means to be human. And through that exploration, spirituality, at least for me, examines all the major religions, examines psychology, examines biology, examines sociology, philosophy. All of these things play into spirituality, science as well. All of this stuff supports and is evidence for the understanding of human existence. And the biggest thing that I've noticed about spirituality is that it isn't even about the human existence on a whole. It's mostly about your existence. It's about taking these tools to better understand yourself, to better understand your existence within yourself and within this world. So for me, it started with a deep exploration of what I was doing with my life, a deep exploration of my own joy, my own passions, looking at my life for the first time objectively and trying to understand who am I? What do I want? You know? I remember I was trying to carve some time out for myself. I had just got out of this toxic relationship, and in the relationship, I started to realize I do so much for all these other people. I'm doing a lot for my parents. I'm doing a lot for my friends. I'm doing a lot for my job. I'm doing a lot for my boyfriend. But what I'm not doing is a lot for me. So I started to decide, well, instead of spending all my money on my boyfriend or spending all my money on my friends, I'm going to take a trip and I'm going to go to New York. And I did. I had a great time. It was an amazing time. Went with my friend Dakota. We saw this amazing movie. Story for another time. But I remember getting back from that, and then I didn't do very much on the topic of doing more for myself. And I remember being like, okay, I'm going to take my dog for a walk. I'm going to get some food, and I'm going to go to a really beautiful park. And I'm driving around, and I don't know what food to go get. I can't decide what I want to eat. I don't know what's good. I don't know what place I want to go to. And then I'm trying to find a park, and I can't find a park. And long story short, I end up sitting in my car, crying, eating McDonald's, because I have no idea who I am. And I don't think I even at that point understood how little I knew about myself then. But I could feel it. I could feel this emptiness. And so then I started on this journey, and this was well before I had any idea of spirituality, any idea. If you had said God, I would have said God who doesn't exist. There's nobody. We are just meat suits. This world is nothing but a evolution of biology would have been what I would have said to you then. And fast forward to now, I realize there's a lot more to it. To me, to this world, to spirituality as a whole. And so that's where this process started to begin for me. I started to better understand myself. I started to look at myself objectively, slowly. But it ramps up over time. And so spirituality came into my life, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I really started to have time to look into these things. I started, honestly, on TikTok, watching TikTok videos that were talking about spirituality, about healing, about psychology, about ADHD, about narcissism, about all these things. And all of a sudden now I'm starting to connect the dots. I'm starting to see, whoa. This is relatable to me. I'm struggling with dealing with narcissistic people. I'm struggling with my own empathetic nature. I'm struggling with people pleasing. I'm struggling with issues with my parents. I'm struggling with romantic relationship issues. All these things are tied together. And at the same time, I found Abraham Hicks. And if you don't know who Abraham Hicks is, highly recommend. Of any spiritual teacher teaching lessons about life that have affected me the most, it's Abraham Hicks. And so at the same time, I'm learning from Abraham Hicks that we need to think positively. We need to be aware of what we're thinking. And it was at this time where I really finally kind of pulled myself out of myself. And I don't know if I have a more eloquent way to explain that other than something in my mind shifted where I was able to start listening and observing myself almost from an outside perspective. You know, like Carmen is this character and I'm observing how Carmen is acting and behaving. And through the practices that I learn, I'm doing that not great at first, but I'm getting better at doing it with compassion. I'm getting better at understanding what it means to love myself fully, every part of myself, the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the beautiful, the amazing, the creative, all of that. I'm learning to understand myself. And that to me is what spirituality is about. Spirituality opened the door for me to be able to better understand who I am and also better understand how I want to show up in this world. Before spirituality, I didn't really have a moral foundation of things that I held true and that I believed in strongly. Of course, I want to be a good person, but I lied, I cheated, I stole. I've done all these things at some point in my life. And spirituality allowed me to really tune into the good. And I mentioned taking that trip to New York before. It was right before I got into that relationship that I had started to just want to do better for myself. I was a server at the time, and at the end of our shift, we had to roll silverware, and we'd have to roll 75 or 100 silverware, and nobody ever really counted every single one. So you could roll 65 and say it was 75. No one would really know. And I started to do things like roll the silverware that I said I was going to roll. I started to do my job, not half-assed, but really do what was meant to me, not cut corners. I started being more honest with the people around me. I started speaking how I was feeling. I started living in integrity. I started living with more integrity, within the integrity of the person that I wanted to become. And I watched this world literally become more magical to me, become more magical in front of my eyes. And it was weird. It was like this sort of mystical. It was feeling, but also the outside world looked a little brighter. And I remember that I got to this point where I had started talking to this guy on the internet, and I felt like I was at this dividing pathway in my life where I could kind of continue exploring this path that I was going down, where I was seeing some magic, I was seeing some light, or I could explore this relationship with this guy that I've had an internet crush on for a while. And 23-year-old me chose the path with the guy. I said to myself, well, I can always explore myself. I'm always here for myself, but I can't always explore a potential relationship with this guy. So I chose this guy, which now at 32, I see that's been a cycle for me that I'm just now breaking, that I'm just now really understanding what it means to choose yourself. And for me, being in a relationship was where I got a lot of joy, I got a lot of happiness, I got a lot of these things out of there because I wasn't providing that within my own self. I wasn't living in integrity and creating a life of joy for myself. I was utilizing these relationships to create the joy, create the excitement, create the life for me, which was unhealthy. So when you start to choose who you want to be, this is where spirituality helps, because I started choosing to live in more integrity with myself. I started to want to do these things. And then slowly over time, I've built a good system of beliefs. That's even a better way to say it than this foundation. A system of beliefs that I did not hold true to myself before. And a lot of what I believe in, if I were to tell you on camera, and one day I will, the most of you who are watching would be like, yeah, fucking right. But I believe in magical things in this world. I believe this universe can deliver us miracles every day. I believe this universe has the ability to blow your fucking mind if you let it. So spirituality is the exploration of yourself so that you can figure out how you want to live in this world. And we need to understand a lot of what spirituality teaches, because what normal society is educating us on doesn't teach us a lot of this stuff. And it's important to understand how this stuff works, how this stuff affects us. Because this stuff isn't woo-woo magic, this stuff is real. There's real science behind how we hold trauma in our body and the importance of being able to tune into your body, listen to your body, have a relationship with your body. There's real science about meditation. There's real science about mindfulness. There's real tangible results when people come together and think positively and how that can affect things. There are scientific experiments about how the randomness of life will work in the favor of our desires or will work in the favor of supporting life at random. There are scientific studies that show our brain will know what's happening before we do. They did this test where they showed pictures of like happy things and scary things, and our brains showed that they were able to anticipate what the next photo was going to be before we see it. So when you start looking at all of these scientific experiments and you start comparing them to the Vedic teachings of Hinduism, if you start looking at the teachings from the Buddha, if you start reading the Bible, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, a lot of this stuff is now being supported by modern day science. And I venture to say that in our lifetime, science and spirituality are going to blend in a way where they really support each other. And it's no longer this like science versus religion. It's science and religion coming together to make this all a real tangible thing. So spirituality is the self-exploration is the exploration of yourself and the exploration of what it means to be human in this world. And that's really important for you to be able to better understand how to show up in this world. I suffered from a lot of depression and anxiety, and honestly, studying spirituality, studying these teachings, studying psychology, all of this really helped me get a handle on it, really helped me get a handle on what I'm thinking. And that's a really important part of spiritual growth, of ascension, of being able to be present and not being run by your emotions. There very much is this autopilot that we can run on. Like our brains, I still catch myself in it. I don't know if I ever will not. And I think it serves a purpose too. But, you know, spirituality allows you to get out of the autopilot and into the driver's seat and to direct yourself a little more. And again, it takes time to get there. It takes time to understand how and what and why we do what we do. And you're going to do it 150 fucking times until it clicks. Sometimes less, sometimes more. And what the study of these things does for you is it allows you to see the world more accurately to what is really happening. And it allows you to see yourself more accurately to what is really happening within you. And spirituality has given me the tools to create a system of beliefs and a moral foundation that I can live confidently by. That I can go back to these beliefs, to this foundation, and check in with myself. Check in with this information that I'm getting that maybe doesn't feel right or I've not heard before, and say, does this line up with me? To go back and check in with myself on the actions that I'm taking and saying, is this in the integrity that I hold for myself? And if not, why? And spirituality teaches you how to view yourself and view the world with compassion. How to view yourself and view the world from the lens of like, we are not our worst deed. Like, our worst deed does not define us. I say to a lot of my clients and my friends, like, just because I say something in a bitchy way doesn't make me a bitch. But if I'm constantly speaking in a bitchy way, then I'm likely a bitch. But making a mistake, even a really big one, that doesn't define the entirety of your existence. And I think we get caught up in those things. And so spirituality allows you to be able to view yourself and view the world from a state of compassion. And that takes learning. That takes really digging up the stuff within inside of you to forgive yourself, to forgive this world, to forgive others. And when you can do that, you are enlightened to these perspectives you didn't have before. And these perspectives are important because they help fuel your self-evolution and they help fuel your understanding of spirituality. I think we have gone, definitely in the Western world, so far away from spirituality, and we've replaced spirituality with consumerism and with capitalism and with living our lives in this way that's really disconnected from the real, what it means to really be a human, what it means to really exist here. And we're all unhappy and we're all over-medicated and overweight. Well, not all of us. I don't like to use those big definitive words, but many of us here are really unhappy with our lives. I have a lot of friends of mine who make great money. They've got kids, they've got a house, they've got, the American dream, and like, they're not filled with vivacious lust for life. They're chasing after the next car or chasing after these next things. And we know this, the rat race, we know all of this stuff. But so many of my friends who even know this are still stuck in this. So I think that's because there's this lack of spirituality. There's this lack of moral ownership of your own life to live within integrity. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's a hard thing to do, as a matter of fact. But it gets better and better as you chip away at it, as you define what's important to you, what's not important to you. And spirituality allows you to see that. Spirituality gives you the teachings to better understand yourself and better understand the world. And that is very valuable for self-evolution. That is very valuable to grow towards a happy life, not to grow towards these big goals of, making $10 million or any of these things. Like, you'll never be happy there if you don't start with yourself, if you don't start with what's going on with inside of you, if you don't start with what's going on with your body. These things are important. I think that's good.